A cloud of dust trails behind a lone rider galloping through the vast Arizona territory. The year is 1875, and Silver Creek's dusty streets hide secrets darker than the gathering storm clouds. A shot rings out in the distance, followed by the echo of a tin can being split clean in half, a sound that would soon become all too familiar in this small frontier town. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The early morning sun casts long shadows across the Henderson family farm, where 18-year-old Emma Henderson moves with practiced precision through her daily chores. Her calloused hands tell the story of years of hard work, but they hide an even more remarkable talent, one that she's kept hidden from nearly everyone in Silver Creek. The rooster's crow mingles with the gentle lowing of cattle as she makes her way through the barnyard, her mother's silver locket bouncing against her chest with each step. The farm sits nestled in a valley just outside town, a modest spread that Emma's father Thomas has maintained since before her mother's passing. 10 years of drought, dust, and determination have shaped every acre into something worth fighting for. The morning routine is interrupted by the distant sound of hoofbeats, multiple riders approaching from the direction of town. Emma's hand instinctively moves to her hip, where a revolver would normally rest, but she catches herself. Not here. Not now. The Henderson farm has always been a peaceful place, despite the hardships. The two-story farmhouse, weathered but well-maintained, stands as a testament to Thomas Henderson's stubborn resilience. The barn, recently repainted a deep red, houses not only their livestock but also the memories of happier times, when Emma's mother would sing as she worked, her voice carrying across the fields like a sweet summer breeze. 3 riders emerge from the morning haze, their horses kicking up dust as they approach the farmhouse. Leading them is Jake the Hawk Turner, his reputation for violence preceding him like a dark cloud. The silver spurs on his boots catch the morning light, matching the deadly gleam in his eyes. Behind him, the Stone brothers, Caleb and Daniel, fan out as they near the house, their intentions clear in the way they position themselves. Caleb, the older of the two, bears a fresh scar across his chin, while Daniel's youth barely masks his cruel nature. "Morning, Miss Henderson," Turner calls out, his voice carrying a snake's charm. "Fine day for a chat about property taxes, wouldn't you say?" He tips his hat, a gesture that makes Emma's skin crawl. His horse, a magnificent black stallion, paws at the ground impatiently, as if sensing its rider's malicious intent. Thomas Henderson emerges from the barn, wiping his hands on a rag. His weathered face shows no fear, but Emma knows her father well enough to see the concern in his eyes. The past decade has aged him more than it should have, silver streaks running through his once dark hair, but his spine remains straight as a rail. "We've been through this, Turner. We paid our dues to the proper authorities." Turner's smile doesn't reach his eyes. But you see, Mr. Henderson, there's been some changes in Silver Creek. Mr. Blackwood's taken a special interest in this valley. He's offering to buy up all the farms. For a fair price, of course. His hand rests casually on his holstered pistol, a well-worn Colt that's claimed more lives than anyone cares to count. Emma watches the exchange from near the water pump, her heart pounding. She knows about Victor Snake Eyes Blackwood. Everyone in the territory does. A man who built his empire on broken promises and buried bodies, now seemingly intent on adding their farm to his collection. The stories they tell about him in hushed whispers at Rose McCready's saloon would make even the bravest soul think twice about crossing him. "This land's not for sale," Thomas replies firmly. "Never has been, never will be. My wife is buried on this property, Turner. You know that." The Stone brothers exchange glances, their hands hovering near their weapons, but Turner raises a hand, maintaining his false civility. "No need for hasty decisions, Mr. Henderson. We'll give you time to think it over. Say until the next full moon." His smile widens. "Though I should mention, accidents tend to happen to folks who take too long to make up their minds." The morning sun seems to dim as Turner speaks, as if nature itself recoils from his threats. A crow calls out from atop the barn, its harsh cry breaking the tension like a gunshot. As they turn to leave, Daniel Stone's eyes linger on Emma for a moment too long, his gaze trailing over her like a physical touch. "Shame if anything were to happen to your pretty daughter, old man," he calls out, earning a sharp look from Turner that does nothing to mask the threat. Once the riders are gone, Emma rushes to her father's side. "Pa, we can't let them—" "No," Thomas cuts her off, his voice stern but trembling slightly. "We're not going to do anything rash. I'll ride into town tomorrow, speak with Sheriff Hawkins." He places a calloused hand on her shoulder, his touch gentle despite years of hard labor. "Your mother wouldn't want us starting trouble?" Emma bites her lip, knowing what she has to do, but unable to tell her father. As soon as the sun sets, she'll make her way up into the mountains to the hidden cabin where old Ben Wallace taught her everything she knows about handling a gun. The same old Ben who helped her mother perfect her shot years ago, before illness took her from them. The legacy of Quick Draw Henderson didn't die with her mother. It just went underground, like a seed waiting for the right moment to sprout. The rest of the day passes in tense silence, father and daughter going about their chores while both their minds race with unspoken worries. As evening approaches, dark clouds gather on the horizon, promising a storm that matches the brewing trouble in Silver Creek. The wind picks up, carrying with it the scent of rain and the whispers of coming violence. What no one in town knows, not the sheriff, not Victor Blackwood, and especially not Jake Turner, is that Emma Henderson isn't just some farmer's daughter. In a hidden box beneath her floorboards lies a gun belt that belonged to her mother, its leather worn smooth by years of use. The pearl-handled revolver within it has been waiting patiently, just like Emma, for the moment when hiding would no longer be an option. The name Quick Draw Henderson didn't die with her mother. It just went into hiding, waiting for the right moment to resurface. And as Emma watches the sun set behind the gathering storm clouds, she knows that moment is coming sooner than anyone expects. The mountain path winds treacherously through the darkness as Emma guides her horse beneath a clouded moon. She's made this journey countless times before, but tonight feels different. The weight of her mother's gun belt, strapped securely beneath her riding coat, reminds her of everything at stake. Lightning flashes in the distance, illuminating the rocky terrain that few dare to traverse after nightfall. Old Ben's cabin lies just beyond the next ridge, nestled in a hollow where the townsfolk rarely venture. Her horse, a sturdy brown mare named Whisper, knows the path well enough to navigate the treacherous terrain even in near darkness. The animal's ears prick forward at every snap of a twig or rustle of leaves, sharing her rider's heightened alertness. Emma's thoughts drift to the morning's confrontation, to Turner's snake oil smile and the way Daniel Stone had looked at her, like a wolf sizing up its prey. As she approaches the cabin, Emma spots the familiar glow of lantern light through the weathered windows. Smoke curls from the chimney, carrying the scent of coffee and tobacco into the night air. Before she can even dismount, the cabin door creaks open, and Old Ben Wallace's gruff voice breaks the silence. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Bit late for social calls, ain't it, girl? The old man steps into view, his silver hair gleaming in the lantern light. Despite his advanced years, his posture remains straight as a ramrod, and his eyes miss nothing. A Spencer carbine rests easily in his hands. Old Ben never opens his door unarmed. Unless this visit has something to do with those vultures I saw circling your farm this morning? Emma ties Whisper to the hitching post, her movements deliberate. You saw them then? Hawk Turner and his boys? Old Ben spits into the dirt. Been watching that sorry lot make their rounds. Blackwood's getting bolder, sending them to your place. He gestures toward the cabin. Come on in. Reckon it's time we had a serious talk. Inside, the cabin is sparse but meticulously organized. Gun racks line the walls, each weapon cleaned and maintained with religious dedication. Wanted posters from territories across the West paper one wall, some so old the ink has faded, others fresh enough that the reward money still tempts. A pot of coffee bubbles on the wood stove, and old Ben pours 2 cups before settling into his favorite chair, its leather worn smooth by years of use. Your mother knew this day might come, he says, his voice softening at the mention of his former pupil. Why do you think she made me promise to teach you everything I taught her? Catherine wasn't just fast with a gun, she was smart. Knew trouble follows certain kinds of talent no matter how deep you try to bury it. Emma wraps her hands around the warm coffee cup, remembering her mother's gentle hands and fierce spirit. Pa wants to talk to Sheriff Hawkins tomorrow. Old Ben's laugh is bitter as the winter wind. Jim Hawkins is a good man, but his hands are tied. Blackwood's got half the territory's lawmen in his pocket and the other half too scared to move against him. He sets his cup down with a decisive clink. No, girl. Time for talking's done. Your mother had a saying. When words run dry, actions speak true. Rising from his chair, Old Ben moves to a locked trunk in the corner. The key hangs from a chain around his neck, and Emma watches as he opens it with reverent care. From within, he withdraws a wooden box inlaid with silver, its surface etched with intricate designs that catch the lamplight. Your mother's pride and joy, he says, opening the box to reveal a matching pair of Colt Peacemakers, their pearl handles gleaming. Custom made by the finest gunsmith in St. Louis. She only used them once in that business down in Tombstone. 30 seconds, 6 shots, 4 men who needed killing, and not a single innocent bystander harmed. The territory marshal himself called it the cleanest shooting he'd ever seen. Emma's eyes widened. She'd heard whispers of her mother's legendary status, but never the full stories. Why didn't she keep them? Because your father asked her to give up that life when you were born, and she loved him enough to do it. Old Ben carefully lifts one of the revolvers. But she was smart enough to know that sometimes trouble finds you, whether you're looking for it or not. That's why she made sure you'd be ready. For the next hour, Old Ben drills Emma relentlessly. They move outside to the shooting range he's set up behind the cabin, where targets of varying sizes and distances challenge even the most skilled marksman. Emma draws, fires, and reloads with fluid grace, her movements a dance passed down through blood and practice. The night air fills with the sharp crack of gunfire and the metallic ping of bullets finding their marks. You're faster than your mother was, Old Ben observes as Emma splits a playing card at 20 paces. But speed ain't everything. Tomorrow we work on strategy. Blackwood's men won't come at you straight on. They're snakes, the lot of them. They'll try to get inside your head first, making you doubt yourself. That's when mistakes happen. He demonstrates a complex draw technique, his weathered hands still swift and sure. See, your mother understood something most gunslingers never learn. It ain't about being the fastest. It's about being smarter than the other fellow, reading his intentions before he even knows them himself. As they wrap up the session, a horse's whinny breaks the night's silence. Both Emma and Old Ben freeze, weapons ready. From the shadows emerges Mary Hawkins, the sheriff's daughter, her face pale in the moonlight. Her dark hair is windblown and her riding clothes suggest she left town in a hurry. Emma? Mary's voice trembles. I followed you. I had to know where you've been sneaking off to all these nights. Her eyes dart between Emma's drawn weapon and Old Ben's stern face. My father, he just got word. Blackwood's men burned out the Miller family last night. Their farm's just north of yours. Emma's blood runs cold. The Millers had 2 young children. They got out in time, Mary says quickly, dismounting from her horse. But they lost everything. Dad's furious, but the territorial marshal says there's no evidence linking it to Blackwood. She takes a shaky breath, her hands clutching her saddle horn for support. There's more. I overheard Frank Wilson talking in the saloon. They're not just after the land anymore. Blackwood's looking for something specific, something he thinks is buried on your property. Old Ben and Emma exchange glances. They both know what Blackwood must be after, the cache of Confederate gold that Emma's mother had helped hide during the war. The secret that died with her, mapped only in a coded journal that now sits in the same box as her mother's gun belt. Mary, Emma says slowly, holstering her mother's Colt. How good are you at keeping secrets? Thunder rolls in the distance as Mary steps forward into the lantern light, her decision made. Her voice is steady now, her father's determination shining through. Better than anyone knows. And I want to help. Whatever you're planning, whatever this is, I'm in. Old Ben surveys the two young women, a plan already forming in his mind. The old gunfighter sees something familiar in their determination, the same fire he'd seen in Catherine Henderson's eyes all those years ago. Well then, he says, reaching for another box of ammunition. Reckon we've got a lot of work to do before sunrise. And something tells me we're gonna need every minute of it. Dawn breaks over Silver Creek with an uneasy stillness. Thomas Henderson's wagon rattles down the main street, kicking up dust as he makes his way to the sheriff's office. The town is already stirring, miners heading to their claims, shopkeepers opening their doors, and the occasional group of ranch hands stumbling out of Rose McCready's saloon after a long night. Inside the sheriff's office, James Hawkins sits behind his desk, examining a fresh wanted poster. His silver badge catches the morning light as he looks up at Thomas's entrance. The lines around his eyes deepen with concern as he recognizes his visitor. Thomas, he says, rising from his chair, I was hoping you'd come by. Heard about Turner's visit to your place yesterday. He gestures to an empty chair, but Thomas remains standing, his hat clutched in weathered hands. Jim, they burned out the Millers, Thomas says without preamble. Now they're threatening my Emma. This has to stop. The sheriff's jaw tightens. I know. But proving Blackwood's behind it. He shakes his head. That man's got more layers of protection than a rattler's got scales. Even the territorial marshal's backing off. Through the window they watch as Victor Blackwood himself rides past, his black coat immaculate, flanked by Robert the Shadow Sullivan and Frank Wilson. The townspeople scatter like leaves in a wind, ducking into doorways or averting their eyes. Speak of the devil, Hawkins mutters. He's been buying up judges faster than he's buying land. 3 good lawmen in neighboring counties have already turned in their badges. Can't say I blame them. After what happened to Sheriff Parker over Mesa Ridge. Thomas's knuckles whiten around his hat brim. What about the Army? Surely they... The Army's got their hands full with Indian troubles up north, Hawkins interrupts. Besides, on paper, everything Blackwood does is legal. Man could steal your soul and have a contract proving you sold it to him. The conversation is interrupted by Rose McCready bursting through the door, her usually composed demeanor shaken. Her red hair is coming loose from its pins and her breath comes in quick gasps. Sheriff, she manages. There's trouble at the bank. The Stone brothers. They're escorting folks to withdraw their savings, saying it's for their own protection. Hawkins curses, reaching for his gun belt. Thomas will finish this later. Rose, get word to Deputy Collins. Tell him to... A gunshot echoes from the direction of the bank, followed by screams. Through the window, they see people running for cover as Caleb Stone emerges onto the bank's porch, rifle in hand. His brother Daniel follows, dragging elderly Mr. Peterson, the bank manager, by his collar. Listen up, good people of Silver Creek. Caleb's voice booms across the street. Mr. Blackwood's concerned about the safety of your hard-earned money. Seems some unsavory elements have been planning to rob this establishment. But don't you worry. We'll be providing security from now on. Sheriff Hawkins steps out onto the street, his hand resting on his holstered gun. That's enough, Stone. Let Peterson go. Or what, Sheriff? Daniel sneers, giving the bank manager a shake. You're gonna arrest us for protecting the town's interests? We got papers making us official bank security, signed by the territorial judge himself. Thomas watches from the sheriff's office doorway as the scene unfolds. His eyes narrow as he spots Jake Turner watching from the shadows of the gunsmith's shop, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. Inside the bank, more of Blackwood's men are helping townspeople empty their accounts. Mary Hawkins, who works as a teller, stands rigid behind her counter, her face pale but determined as she's forced to process withdrawals that everyone knows will never be seen again. The sheriff's hands are tied, and everyone knows it. With the territorial judge's signature on those papers, any action against Blackwood's men would be seen as obstruction of legal business. This is how it starts, Rose whispers to Thomas. First the farms, now the bank. Soon he'll own every business in town. She pauses, then adds in an even lower voice. But there's talk of resistance. Secret meetings out at the old mission. People who ain't willing to let Blackwood steal everything they've built. Thomas's response is cut short by the arrival of Victor Blackwood himself, riding up to the bank on his gleaming black stallion. The man cuts an imposing figure, his silver-streaked hair and expensive clothes a stark contrast to the dusty town around him. "Is there a problem here, Sheriff?" Blackwood's voice is cultured, almost gentle, but there's steel beneath the silk. "I'm simply trying to protect my neighbor's interests. Times are uncertain, after all. Why, just look at what happened to the poor Miller family." The threat in his words is clear as a rattler's warning. Sheriff Hawkins can only watch as Blackwood dismounts, straightening his black leather gloves with deliberate care. "Mr. Henderson," Blackwood calls out, noticing Thomas in the doorway. "Have you given any more thought to my generous offer? I'd hate to see your lovely daughter face any unfortunate accidents." Before Thomas can respond, a new figure appears on the scene. Emma Henderson rides into town, her arrival drawing all eyes. She sits tall in the saddle, her mother's locket catching the morning sun. If she's afraid of the armed men surrounding the bank, she shows no sign of it. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood," she calls out, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent street. "I believe you were just threatening my father?" Her hand rests casually near her hip, where her riding coat conceals her mother's gun belt. For just a moment, something like uncertainty flickers across Blackwood's face. Then his practiced smile returns, though it doesn't reach his eyes. "Why, Miss Henderson, you mistake me. I'm simply looking out for the welfare of this fine community." "Is that what you told the Millers?" Emma's voice is steel wrapped in silk, matching Blackwood's own tone. The morning sun catches her face, highlighting a determination that reminds the older townsfolk of another Henderson woman who once stood up to bullies and thieves. The tension in the street builds like a thunderhead, and everyone present knows that Silver Creek has just become a powder keg, waiting for a spark. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly on Silver Creek as Emma Henderson makes her way to Rose McCready's saloon. The morning's confrontation at the bank has left the town holding its breath, waiting to see who'll make the next move. Inside the saloon, the usual afternoon crowd is notably thinner, folks staying home, avoiding trouble. Rose is behind the bar, mechanically polishing glasses while keeping one eye on the Stone brothers, who've claimed a corner table. Their loud laughter carries an edge of menace that sets everyone's teeth on edge. Emma slides onto a bar stool, her back to the wall, just as her mother taught her. "Brave of you to show your face in town after this morning," Rose murmurs, sliding a glass of sarsaparilla across the bar. The redhead's green eyes dart meaningfully toward the back room. "Got some friends waiting to talk to you." Emma makes her way to the back room, passing the Stone brothers. Daniel raises his glass in mock salute, but she ignores him. In the private room, she finds Mary Hawkins, Reverend Hayes, and 3 of the displaced farmers whose land Blackwood had already claimed. "We've been waiting," Mary says, closing the door behind Emma. "Father's beside himself after what happened at the bank. Half the town's savings, gone just like that." Reverend Hayes, his collar wilting in the heat, spreads a map across the table. "The old mission's become too obvious for meetings. Blackwood's men have been watching it. But there's something else you need to see." His finger traces a path through the mountains. "These markers here. Your mother left them, didn't she?" Emma studies the map, recognizing her mother's distinctive hand in the subtle marks that most would mistake for random ink spots. "How did you know?" "Because Catherine Henderson wasn't just protecting Confederate gold," the Reverend says quietly. "She was protecting evidence, documents that could bring down half the corrupt officials in the territory, including the judge who's been signing Blackwood's papers." A commotion from the main room interrupts their discussion. Jake Turner's voice rises above the general din, demanding information about recent meetings at the mission. The sound of breaking glass follows, then a woman's cry of protest. Emma's hand moves to her concealed weapon, but Mary grabs her arm. "Wait," she whispers. "We need to be smart about this." The door bursts open, revealing Turner flanked by the Stone brothers. His eyes sweep the room, taking in the gathered group and the hastily folded map. "Well, well," he drawls. "Ain't this cozy? Having ourselves a little social club, are we?" His gaze fixed on Emma. "Miss Henderson, Mr. Blackwood was mighty impressed by your performance this morning. Said you reminded him of someone, your mother, perhaps." Emma rises slowly, positioning herself between Turner and the others. "My mother died of fever 6 years ago, Mr. Turner. But you already knew that, didn't you? Since you were there in Tombstone when she retired." Something flickers in Turner's eyes. Recognition, maybe fear. "Smart girl? Too smart for your own good, just like her." His hand inches toward his gun. "You know what we're really after, don't you? The gold's just a bonus. It's those documents we want." "I don't know what you're talking about," Emma replies evenly, though her heart pounds against her ribs. "No?" Turner's smile is ugly now. "Maybe we should ask your father. He's having a nice chat with Mr. Blackwood right now up at the big house." Mary gasps, but Emma's expression doesn't change. "You're lying. My father's at the farm." "Is he?" Daniel Stone laughs. "Funny, I could have sworn I saw him riding toward Blackwood's place about an hour ago. Real urgent-like." The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. Emma's mind races, calculating angles, distances, possibilities. There are 3 of them, all armed but in close quarters. The others behind her are civilians, except Mary, who she knows can handle herself thanks to old Ben's training. "Now," Turner continues, "why don't you tell us where those documents are? And maybe your father won't have to test Mr. Blackwood's hospitality for too long?" Emma's response is a blur of motion. Her mother's Colt seems to materialize in her hand as she flips the heavy oak table, providing cover for the others. Mary's Derringer appears as if by magic and the back room erupts in gunfire. Turner dives for cover as Emma's first shot takes Daniel Stone in the shoulder, spinning him into his brother. The Reverend hustles the farmers toward the back exit as Mary provides covering fire. Rose McCready's voice rings out from the main room, the distinct sound of her shotgun being cocked cutting through the chaos. "Emma, go!" Mary shouts, her small gun barking twice more. "Find your father, we'll handle things here." Emma doesn't waste time arguing. She slips out the back door into the alley, the sounds of gunfire fading behind her. As she runs toward her horse, she spots Robert, the shadow Sullivan watching from a rooftop, making no move to stop her. Their eyes meet briefly, and she sees something unexpected there, reluctance, maybe even sympathy. Mounting Whisper in one fluid motion, Emma spurs her horse toward Blackwood's mansion on the hill. Behind her, Silver Creek erupts into chaos as the townspeople's simmering resentment finally boils over. Smoke rises from the bank as someone, probably Rose, decides to retrieve the town's savings by force. The sound of hoofbeats makes her turn in the saddle. 2 riders are following her, the Stone brothers, both looking worse for wear but determined. Ahead, storm clouds gather over Blackwood's mansion, as if nature itself is preparing for what's to come. Emma checks her mother's guns, remembering old Ben's words. "Sometimes trouble finds you, whether you're looking for it or not." Well, she's done hiding from trouble. It's time to show Victor Blackwood exactly what kind of woman he's been foolish enough to underestimate. As she rides, her mother's locket bounces against her chest with each gallop. Inside, hidden behind the photo, is a small key, one that matches the lockbox buried beneath the Henderson farm's old oak tree. The same tree where her mother had taught her to shoot, where they'd spent countless hours practicing until her hands were steady and her eye was true. If Blackwood knew just how close he'd been to what he was looking for all this time, he'd have burned the farm down weeks ago. Thunder rolls overhead as the first drops of rain begin to fall, and Emma allows herself a grim smile. A storm is coming to Silver Creek, in more ways than one. Blackwood's mansion looms against the darkening sky, a monument to ill-gotten gains that towers over Silver Creek from its perch on the hill. Rain begins to fall in earnest as Emma approaches, the drops hitting her face like tiny bullets. Through the ornate iron gates, she can see her father's wagon parked near the front steps, but no sign of movement within the house. 2 guards patrol the grounds, their black dusters glistening with rain. Emma recognizes Frank Wilson among them, his signature red bandana a splash of color in the gray afternoon. She dismounts Whisper in a sheltered grove, knowing the Stone brothers can't be far behind. "Looking for someone, Miss Henderson?" The voice comes from behind her. Emma turns slowly to find Robert the Shadow Sullivan leaning against a tree, his face half hidden beneath his hat brim. His guns remain holstered, a courtesy she doesn't trust. "You followed me from town," Emma says. "It's not a question." Sullivan nods. "Your mother saved my life once. In Tombstone. Never told anyone about it." He shifts his weight, eyes scanning the surroundings. "Blackwood doesn't know that, of course. Just like he doesn't know I was there when those documents were hidden." Emma's hand stays near her gun. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because your father's in there with proof that Blackwood killed the previous owner of this mansion, among other things." Sullivan's voice drops lower. "Man keeps a safe behind the painting in his study. Combinations his dead wife's birthday, March 15th. Before Emma can respond, gunfire erupts from the direction of the road. The Stone brothers have arrived, engaging with Wilson and the other guard. Sullivan melts into the shadows without another word, leaving Emma to make her choice. She moves toward the mansion's servant entrance, remembering Mary's description of the layout from her previous visits. The sound of fighting at the front provides cover for her footsteps on the wet grass. Through a window, she catches glimpses of more of Blackwood's men rushing toward the commotion, leaving the interior largely unguarded. The back door's lock proves no match for the skills old Ben taught her. Emma slips inside, finding herself in a well-appointed kitchen. Voices drift down from upstairs, one of them unmistakably her father's, raised in anger. "You're a fool, Thomas." Blackwood's cultured tones carry through the floorboards. "Just like your wife was. She could have been rich beyond imagination, but she chose to play hero instead." Emma moves silently up the back stairs, her mother's Colts ready. The voices grow clearer as she approaches the study. "My Catherine was worth 100 of you, Victor," Thomas spits back. "She saw right through you in Tombstone, just like I'm seeing through you now. And yet here you are, trapped like a rat, while I own half the territory." Blackwood's laugh is cruel. "Your precious daughter will be next. Turner tells me she's got her mother's spirit. Maybe I'll break it the same way." The study door is ajar, allowing Emma to peer inside. Her father sits tied to a chair, blood trickling from a cut above his eye. Blackwood stands by the fireplace, drink in hand, while Jake Turner looms near Thomas with a drawn gun. "You never could let it go, could you, Victor?" Thomas continues, buying time though he doesn't know his daughter is near. "Catherine rejected you long before she met me, but you just couldn't accept that she chose a simple farmer over a gentleman like yourself." Blackwood's facade cracks slightly. "She was meant for greater things than playing house with the likes of you. We could have built an empire together. Instead, she threw it all away for love." He spits the last word like a curse. "And then you arranged that ambush in Tombstone," Thomas pressed. "But she was faster than your hired guns, wasn't she? Left 4 men dead and you running scared." "Enough!" Blackwood hurls his glass into the fireplace. "Those documents die with you, Thomas. And then your daughter will tell me where the gold is, or she'll watch everything she loves burn." Emma's seen enough. She kicks the door fully open, guns raised. "Why not ask me yourself, Mr. Blackwood?" The room freezes. Turner starts to turn, but Emma's first shot sends his gun flying. Her second catches him in the leg, dropping him to the floor. Blackwood reaches for a hidden derringer, but Emma's third shot splinters the desk beside his hand. "I wouldn't," she says coldly. "Mother always said you were slow on the draw." Outside, the gunfire has intensified. Through the study's window, Emma catches glimpses of townspeople arriving, led by Sheriff Hawkins and Rose McCready. The Stone brothers are nowhere to be seen. "You're just like her," Blackwood snarls, nursing his hand. "Think you can save everyone, change everything. But you're surrounded, girl. My men will be here any second. Emma's smile is sharp as a knife. You mean the men Sullivan turned against you are the ones too busy dealing with an angry town? She moves to untie her father, guns still trained on Blackwood and Turner. Face it, Victor. Your empire's falling apart. The gold, Blackwood says desperately. Tell me where it is and I'll let you both walk out of here. The gold was never real, Thomas laughs, rubbing his wrists as Emma frees him. Just a story Catherine spread to keep you chasing shadows, while she gathered evidence against you and your corrupt judges. A look of horrified realization crosses Blackwood's face as Emma moves to the painting behind his desk. The safe combination clicks beneath her fingers. March 15th, just as Sullivan said. Inside she finds not only the documents her mother died protecting, but evidence of 2 decades of corruption, murder, and theft. Thunder crashes outside as Emma faces the man who's haunted her family for so long. My mother taught me more than just how to shoot, Mr. Blackwood. She taught me that justice always finds its mark, one way or another. Lightning splits the sky above Blackwood's mansion as the situation reaches its boiling point. Through the study windows, Emma can see the townspeople gathering below, their numbers growing despite the driving rain. Their lanterns flicker like fireflies in the pre-dawn darkness, illuminating determined faces she's known all her life. Sheriff Hawkins's voice carries over the storm, demanding Blackwood's surrender. But Victor Blackwood isn't finished yet. His hand inches toward his desk drawer while he keeps Emma talking, his cultured accent growing more pronounced with desperation. You think these papers mean anything? He sneers, blood from his wounded hand staining his expensive suit. I own judges from here to Santa Fe. This territory runs on my money, flows with it like the very lifeblood of progress. Not anymore, Thomas Henderson says, moving to stand beside his daughter. His voice carries the weight of years of quiet endurance finally finding release. Sullivan's already writing for the federal marshal with copies of everything. Been planning this for months, haven't you, Robert? From the doorway, Sullivan materializes like his namesake, his dark clothes still dripping from the rain outside. Ever since I found out what really happened to Mrs. Blackwood, he says quietly, his hand resting on his holstered gun. Fever, was it, Victor? Strange how that fever left bruises on her neck. Strange how the doctor who treated her had an unfortunate accident the next day. Blackwood's composure finally shatters like fine china dropped on marble. He yanks the desk drawer open with his good hand, coming up with a hidden derringer. But Emma's faster, just like her mother. Her shot catches his hand, sending the small gun spinning away as he howls in pain, the sound mixing with the thunder outside. That's for the Millers, she says coldly, her mother's Colt steady as a rock. Her second shot pins his coat sleeve to the wall, the bullet embedding itself in his imported wallpaper. That's for my mother. The third shot splits his belt buckle, making him yelp and jump like a scalded cat. And that's to show you I'm not playing anymore. Down below, the sound of fighting intensifies. The Stone brothers have rallied what's left of Blackwood's loyal men, engaging with the townspeople in a chaotic firefight that spans the mansion's grounds. Muzzle flashes illuminate the rain like lightning bugs caught in a dance of death. Rose McCready's voice rings out, directing the townsfolk to take cover as bullets chip away at the ornate facade of Blackwood's pride and joy. It's over, Victor, Thomas says, moving to collect the scattered documents, his boots crunching on broken glass from the shattered windows. The territory marshal will... A shot rings out from behind them, the sound deafening in the confined space. Jake Turner, despite his leg wound, has managed to reach another hidden gun. Thomas staggers, red blooming across his shirt like a desert flower as Emma screams, "Pa!" Her voice carries all the fear and fury of a daughter watching her worst nightmare unfold. What happens next seems to unfold in slow motion, like a nightmare viewed through amber. Emma's hands move with inherited grace, her mother's Colt spinning in a dance of vengeance as old as the West itself. Turner manages 2 more shots, both going wide as Emma's bullets find their mark with surgical precision. He slumps against the wall, eyes wide with disbelief, as Blackwood makes a desperate dash for the door, his injured hand leaving bloody smears on the doorframe. "Emma," her father gasps from the floor, his voice weak but urgent. "Don't let him. Sullivan, keep my father alive," Emma commands, already in pursuit. Behind her, she hears Sullivan barking orders to someone about getting the doctor, his voice fading as she follows Blackwood into the maze of his mansion. The chase through Blackwood's opulent halls becomes a deadly game of cat and mouse. The power of the storm has killed the electric lights, leaving only lightning flashes and shadow to guide them. Emma moves like a ghost through the corridors, tracking Blackwood by the sound of his labored breathing and the trail of blood from his wounded hand. Her boots sink into plush carpets that probably cost more than her family's farm. "You're just like her," his voice echoes from somewhere ahead, bouncing off marble and mahogany. "Catherine never knew when to back down either. Look where it got her. Dead and buried, leaving nothing but a foolish legacy of defiance." "My mother died protecting people from men like you," Emma calls back, ducking as a blind shot splinters the woodwork beside her head, sending splinters of expensive oak flying. "I'd say that's worth more than all your blood money and stolen dreams." She follows him onto a balcony overlooking the main hall, where crystal chandeliers sway in the wind from broken windows. Below, she can see Mary Hawkins leading a group of townspeople through the front door, armed with determination and whatever weapons they could find. The storm rages through broken windows, wind whipping at curtains and papers, turning Blackwood's mansion into a howling wilderness of his own making. Blackwood appears suddenly, swinging a decorative sword taken from the wall, its polished blade catching the lightning's glare. Emma dodges, but the blade catches her arm, drawing blood that mingles with the rain soaking through her clothes. She loses one of her mother's guns in the process, watching helplessly as it slides across the wet balcony toward the 30-foot drop to the marble floor below. "I built this town," Blackwood roars, slashing wildly, his previous composure completely abandoned. His wet hair plasters against his face, making him look more demon than man. "Everything here belongs to me. I won't let some farmer's daughter take it all away. I won't be brought down by Catherine Henderson's ghost." Emma blocks his next swing with her remaining gun, the clash of steel on steel ringing out above the storm. Sparks fly from the impact, briefly illuminating their faces in the darkness. "You're wrong," she grits out, feeling the strength in his desperate attack. "Silver Creek never belonged to you. It belongs to the people you've been stealing from, the lives you've been destroying." A tremendous thunderclap shakes the mansion as Emma kicks Blackwood's knee out from under him. He staggers but manages to catch her gun hand with the sword's crossguard, sending her second Colt skittering away to join its twin. The matched pair her mother had used to build her legend now lie just out of reach as Emma faces her family's longest-standing enemy. Now, unarmed, Emma faces Blackwood across the rain-slicked balcony. Lightning illuminates the madness in his eyes as he raises the sword for a killing blow, his fine clothes now soaked and muddy, his true nature finally revealed for all to see. But old Ben didn't just teach her how to shoot, he taught her how to survive. Emma ducks under the swing and drives her shoulder into Blackwood's midsection, using his own momentum against him. They crash together through the balcony's French doors into his trophy room, glass shattering around them like a crystal rain. Blackwood loses his grip on the sword, but his hands find Emma's throat, fingers digging in with the strength of desperate hatred. "I should have killed you along with your mother," he snarls, fingers tightening. "Should have burned you all out years ago when Catherine first started gathering her precious evidence." Emma's hand closes around something solid, one of Blackwood's precious trophies, a silver cup won in some long-ago shooting competition. "My mother," she chokes out, vision starting to dim around the edges, "sends her regards." The heavy silver cup connects with his temple with a satisfying crack, and Victor Blackwood, the self-proclaimed king of Silver Creek, crumples like a house of cards. When Sheriff Hawkins and Mary finally reach them, they find Emma standing over Blackwood's unconscious form, blood dripping from her arm but her head held high. Outside, the storm begins to ease as dawn approaches, and with it comes the sound of hoofbeats. The federal marshal's men have arrived, their horses' hooves drumming a rhythm of approaching justice on the rain-soaked road to Silver Creek. The first rays of morning sun pierce through the storm clouds as Dr. Samuel Wright works frantically to save Thomas Henderson's life. The mansion's opulent dining room has been transformed into a makeshift surgery, with Rose McCready and Mary Hawkins assisting. Emma paces nearby, her own wound hastily bandaged, refusing to leave her father's side. The bullet missed his heart, Dr. Wright announces, his skilled hands moving with practiced precision. But he's lost a lot of blood. We need to get him somewhere clean and quiet to recover. He looks up at Emma, his eyes kind, but serious. Your father's a fighter, Miss Henderson. Always has been. Outside, the federal marshal's men are taking control of the situation. The sound of hoofbeats and shouted orders fills the air as Blackwood's remaining loyal men are rounded up. The Stone brothers hadn't survived their final stand. Their bodies now lay covered in the garden they'd once terrorized. Sheriff Hawkins enters, his badge gleaming in the morning light. Federal boys just finished securing the premises, he reports. Found a whole strong room full of evidence. Ledgers, contracts, letters. Blackwood's empire's falling apart faster than a house of cards in a windstorm. He pauses, looking at Thomas. How is he? He'll live, Dr. Wright responds without looking up from his work. No thanks to Jake Turner. The mention of Turner's name draws Emma's attention to the window. From here she can see several bodies being carried out, including Turner's, his final expression of surprise still frozen on his face. Robert Sullivan stands nearby, giving his statement to a federal agent, his usual shadows and silenced demeanor replaced by forthright cooperation. Mary approaches Emma, holding out a familiar wooden box. Found these downstairs, she says softly, opening it to reveal Emma's mother's matched Colts, recovered from where they salted and say. Chowder say ana lenina rananstikan. Thought you might want them back. Emma takes the guns reverently, checking them for damage before holstering them. Thank you, Mary, for everything. She glances at her friend. What about your father? Is he... Looking at a promotion, Mary says with a small smile. The federal marshal was mighty impressed with how he handled things, gathering evidence these past months without tipping Blackwood off. They're talking about making him territorial marshal once the dust settles. Rose McCready joins them, wiping blood from her hands. Some of it from treating wounded townspeople, some from the fighting itself. Town's already changing, she reports. People are opening up their homes to the Miller family and the others Blackwood drove out. Everyone's pitching in to help rebuild. Through the window, they can see Reverend Hayes leading a group of townspeople up the mansion's drive, carrying food and supplies for those who'd fought through the night. The morning sun catches his silver cross as he stops to offer comfort to a wounded man. Victor Blackwood's being taken to the territorial prison, Sheriff Hawkins adds, his voice carrying satisfaction. Along with that corrupt judge and half the territorial council. Sullivan's testimony alone would hang them, but with your mother's documents... He shakes his head in amazement. Your man was building this case for years, wasn't she? Emma nods, remembering all the late-night rides she'd never understood as a child. The whispered conversations between her parents, the training with old Ben that had seemed like just a special game. She knew someday someone would need to finish what she started. A commotion at the door draws their attention. Old Ben Wallace himself strides in, looking as if he'd ridden through hell to get there. His clothes are trail-worn, and his silver hair is wild, but his eyes are sharp as ever. Came as soon as I heard the shooting start, he says gruffly, looking around the room. His gaze softens when it lands on Thomas. How is he? He'll recover, Emma assures him, accepting the brief, rough hug he offers. Thanks to you. If you hadn't trained me, old Ben waves off her gratitude. Your mother made me promise to look after you both. Catherine Henderson never asked for anything she hadn't earned twice over. He produces a worn leather journal from his saddlebag. Found this out at my cabin, reckon it belongs to you now. Emma takes the journal, recognizing her mother's handwriting. Inside are not just the coded maps that had kept Blackwood chasing shadows, but her mother's own story, the tale of a woman who'd chosen justice over wealth, love over power, and had prepared her daughter to finish the fight she'd known might someday come. Miss Henderson, one of the federal agents calls from the doorway. We need your statement about what happened here. Go on, Dr. Wright encourages. Your father's stable now. Rose and I will stay with him. As Emma follows the agent out, she pauses in Blackwood's ruined trophy room. Sunlight streams through the broken windows, catching the silver cup she'd used to end his reign of terror. On an impulse, she picks it up, reading the inscription. First place, Tombstone Quick Draw Competition 1855. Your mother won that, Old Ben says quietly, having followed her. Blackwood stole it the night she disappeared from Tombstone. Seemed fitting you should use it to bring him down. What happens now? Emma asks, looking around at the mansion that had loomed over Silver Creek for so long. Now? Old Ben's weathered face breaks into a rare smile. Now you help your father heal, help the town rebuild. Maybe teach a few others what I taught you. There's always a need for folks who can stand up to men like Blackwood. Through the window, Emma can see the townspeople already at work, clearing debris and helping the wounded. Mary Hawkins is organizing care for those who'd been hurt, while Sullivan and Sheriff Hawkins coordinate with the federal marshals. The morning sun catches her mother's locket, still hanging around her neck, reminding her of all that had been sacrificed to reach this moment. The gun belt suited you well, Old Ben observes. Reckon you'll be keeping it? Emma touches her mother's Colts, feeling their familiar weight. Reckon I will, she says softly. Someone needs to make sure justice rides these trails. 3 months after the fall of Victor Blackwood, Silver Creek looks like a different town. The summer sun beats down on newly repaired buildings, fresh paint, and bustling streets. Where once people hurried about their business in fearful silence, now there's laughter and open conversation. Children play freely in the streets, no longer afraid of Blackwood's men riding through. Emma Henderson stands on the boardwalk outside the newly established Silver Creek Bank, watching as Mr. Peterson, the former bank manager, directs workers to hang a sign announcing the return of people's savings. Thanks to careful accounting and the seized assets from Blackwood's estate, every penny stolen has been returned to its rightful owners. Quite a change, isn't it? Mary Hawkins says, joining her friend. She's wearing a deputy's badge now, having proved her worth during the fight at the mansion. Father's coming back today from the territorial capital. Says the governor himself wants to thank everyone who helped bring down Blackwood's network. The mention of the network brings a smile to Emma's face. The evidence her mother gathered, combined with Sullivan's testimony, had led to arrests across 3 territories. Corrupt judges, bought lawmen, and crooked politicians had fallen like dominoes, leaving room for honest folk to step up. "How's your father doing?" Mary asks as they walk toward Rose McCready's saloon, which has become something of an unofficial town hall these days. "Better every day," Emma replies. The bullet wound had been serious, but Thomas Henderson was too stubborn to let it keep him down. He's even talking about expanding the farm now that the water rights have been properly sorted out. Inside the saloon, Rose is hosting a meeting of the town council, another change from Blackwood's days. The people of Silver Creek now have a say in their own governance, with representatives from every part of town having a voice. "Emma," Rose calls out, waving them over. "Just the person we needed to see. We've been discussing the new marshal's office." Since James Hawkins's promotion to territorial marshal, Silver Creek has been in need of a new sheriff. Robert Sullivan had been offered the job, but he'd declined, preferring to continue his work with the federal marshals, tracking down the last of Blackwood's associates. "The town council's been talking," Rose continues, her green eyes twinkling. "We need someone who knows right from wrong, someone who can handle themselves in a fight but prefers to solve problems peacefully, someone who's already proved they care about this town and its people." Emma looks around the room, seeing nothing but supportive faces. Even Reverend Hayes, who'd once preached against women taking men's roles, nods encouragingly. "You want me to be sheriff?" Emma asks, her hand unconsciously touching her mother's gun belt. "Can't think of anyone better suited," comes a gruff voice from the doorway. Old Ben Wallace steps into the saloon, looking more respectable than usual in a clean coat. "Your mother would be proud." The mention of Catherine Henderson brings a hush to the room. Since Blackwood's fall, more stories about her have come to light. Tales of a woman who'd spent years building a case against corruption, all while raising a daughter and protecting a town that never knew how much it owed her. Speaking of your mother, Old Ben continues, producing a package wrapped in oilcloth. Found this in my cabin. Been saving it for the right moment. He unwraps the package to reveal a silver star badge, slightly tarnished but still proud. She wore this in Tombstone before she chose a quieter life. Reckon it's yours now if you want it. Emma takes the badge, feeling its weight, both physical and symbolic. What about the people who won't accept a woman as sheriff? Then they can leave, Rose says firmly. This ain't Blackwood Silver Creek anymore. We make our own rules now. Mary touches her own deputy's badge. Besides, anyone who saw you handle Blackwood and his men knows better than to question your abilities. The door opens again, admitting Thomas Henderson, walking with a cane but standing straight and proud. I thought I'd find you here, he says to Emma. Got something to show you up at the farm. Curious, Emma follows her father out. They ride together to the Henderson farm, where the summer wheat waves golden in the breeze. Thomas leads her to the old oak tree, the one where she'd learned to shoot, where her mother's secrets had been buried. Your mother didn't just leave us evidence against Blackwood, Thomas says, pulling out a folded paper from his vest. She left us a dream. He hands Emma the document, plans for a shooting academy designed to train law officers and ordinary citizens alike in the responsible use of firearms. She believed that the best way to fight corruption was to make sure good people could defend themselves, Thomas explains. The town council's already approved the land grant. Old Ben's agreed to help with the training. Emma looks at the plans, then at the badge in her hand. A lot of responsibility, she muses. You can handle it, Thomas assures her. You're your mother's daughter, after all. Back in town, more changes are underway. The Miller family has reopened their store, now twice as large as before. The old mission has been converted into a school where Mary teaches self-defense alongside regular lessons. Sullivan's occasional visits bring news of justice being served across the territory, while Sheriff Hawkins, now Marshal Hawkins, ensures that no one like Blackwood can ever again build an empire on corruption and fear. Emma pins her mother's badge to her vest, feeling its familiar weight settle over her heart. Through the saloon window, she can see the townspeople going about their business, free from fear at last. A young girl watches her with undisguised admiration, perhaps seeing in Emma what Emma once saw in her own mother, proof that one person's courage can change everything. Well, she says, adjusting her gun belt, reckon Silver Creek could use a sheriff who knows the difference between justice and the law. 6 months into Emma Henderson's tenure as sheriff of Silver Creek, autumn paints the surrounding hills in gold and crimson. The morning finds her making her rounds, her mother's guns at her hips, and Catherine's old badge gleaming on her vest. The town has settled into a new rhythm, with Emma's daily patrols becoming as natural as sunrise. The streets that once echoed with the heavy boots of Blackwood's thugs now ring with the sounds of honest commerce and children's laughter. Sheriff! A breathless young boy runs up, clutching a telegram. His name is Tommy Miller, son of the family Blackwood had burned out, now thriving in their rebuilt store. Wire from Marshal Hawkins just came in. Says it's urgent. Emma takes the telegram, her expression growing serious as she reads. According to the message, 3 notorious outlaws have escaped from the territorial prison, including Frank Wilson, one of Blackwood's former lieutenants who'd survived the Mansion fight and turned state's evidence in exchange for a lighter sentence. The paper trembles slightly in her hand as she remembers Wilson's cruel smile, his casual brutality. Get Deputy Hawkins, Emma tells Tommy, already heading toward her office. Tell her to meet me here straight away. She tosses him a penny for his trouble, watching as he dashes off with the same determination his family showed in rebuilding their lives. Inside the sheriff's office, Emma finds old Ben already waiting, as if he'd somehow sensed trouble coming. He's cleaning a Winchester rifle with methodical care, his weathered hands moving with practiced efficiency. Heard about Wilson, he says without preamble. He'll be heading this way. Man like that can't let go of a grudge, and he's got more reason than most to hate this town now. Mary arrives moments later, buckling on her gun belt. Her badge catches the morning light, a symbol of how much has changed in Silver Creek, where women now serve openly in positions of authority. Father's wire said Wilson broke out with the Carson brothers, she reports grimly. They've already hit 2 banks between here and the territorial prison, left 3 dead in Mesa Ridge, including a young teller who tried to raise the alarm. Emma spreads a map across her desk, marking the locations of the robberies with red pins. The pattern is clear as day to anyone who knows Wilson's history. They're working their way toward us, she observes. Wilson knows Silver Creek better than most, and he knows where Blackwood kept his emergency funds. Every cent that snake stole over the years. The old mine, Old Ben nods, running a calloused finger along the map's representation of the hills. Place was a cover for more than gold digging. Blackwood had a whole system of tunnels running through those hills, perfect for storing illegal goods and money. Must be close to 100,000 in gold and banknotes hidden away up there. Rose McCready enters, bringing coffee and news. Her saloon has become an unofficial gathering place for town business, and she keeps her ears open. Just heard from one of the stage drivers. 3 men matching Wilson's group were seen at Canyon Station yesterday. Bought supplies and asked about Silver Creek's new sheriff. She gives Emma a meaningful look, setting down the coffee pot with deliberate care. They seemed mighty interested in hearing about how a woman got the job. Drivers said they laughed about it, the kind of laughter that makes decent folks uncomfortable. Emma studies the map, her mind working through possibilities as she traces the likely routes from Canyon Station. The coffee grows cold beside her, untouched. Wilson's not just coming for Blackwood's hidden money. He wants revenge on the town that turned against him, on the people who testified. We need to be ready. The Shooting Academy's first class just graduated, Mary reminds her, pride evident in her voice. 20 good men and women trained in defending themselves and others. Plus, the town's different now. People won't hide in their homes like they did in Blackwood's day. They've learned the price of keeping their heads down. Emma nods, remembering how the townspeople had come together during the mansion fight, ordinary folk finding extraordinary courage. We'll need that spirit again. Mary, get word to your father. See if he can spare any territorial marshals. Rose, spread the word quietly through town. I want people prepared, but no panic. Last thing we need is Wilson knowing we're expecting him. What about the mine? Old Ben asks, propping his rifle against the desk. Wilson knows those tunnels better than anyone, except maybe your mother. Could have men stationed there already, watching the town and waiting for their chance. That's why we're going up there now, Emma declares, strapping on her gun belt with practiced ease. Better to face whatever's waiting in daylight than let them use those tunnels to slip into town at night. Her fingers brush the pearl handles of her mother's guns, drawing strength from their familiar touch. As they prepare to ride out, Thomas Henderson arrives at the office, his limp barely noticeable now. The morning sun catches the silver in his hair as he moves with renewed purpose. Thought you might need this, he says, handing Emma a leather-bound journal, its pages worn with use and time. Your mother's notes on the mine. She mapped those tunnels years ago, keeping track of Blackwood's operations. Every secret passage, every hidden cache. Emma takes the journal, grateful once again for her mother's foresight. The familiar handwriting brings a lump to her throat. Pa, I need you to organize the townspeople. If Wilson and the Carsons make it past us at the mine, they won't, Thomas says firmly, his faith in his daughter evident in every word. But we'll be ready all the same. The Millers are already spreading the word, and Reverend Hayes is opening the church basement as a safe haven for the children and elderly. The ride to the mine takes them through copper-colored hills where autumn winds whisper through sage and juniper. Emma leads a small group, herself, Mary, Old Ben, and Robert Sullivan, who'd arrived that morning on one of his regular visits. The marshal's timing couldn't have been better, almost as if Catherine Henderson's spirit was still watching over her beloved town. Place looks deserted, Sullivan observes as they approach the mine entrance. his experienced eyes scanning the weathered buildings and rusted equipment. But Wilson always was good at laying traps. Man could make a spider jealous with his webs. Emma consults her mother's journal, comparing the hand-drawn maps to the terrain before them. The pages contain more than just drawings. They hold her mother's observations, notes about guard patterns, and details about hidden mechanisms. There are 3 main entrances, she explains. The main shaft here, a ventilation shaft up on that ridge, and a hidden entrance behind the old processing shed. Mother suspected Blackwood had more tunnels dug that never made it onto official maps. Smart woman, Old Ben comments, checking his rifle's action. Wilson's probably counting on knowledge from his Blackwood days giving him an advantage. Won't expect us to know about those secret routes. The glint of metal from the ridge catches Emma's eye. Sunlight reflecting off a rifle barrel quickly withdrawn. Movement by the ventilation shaft, she whispers, drawing her group behind an abandoned ore cart. They're already here. Carson brothers up top, Sullivan confirms, his keen eyes picking out details. Can see Josh's red bandana. Never was one for proper concealment, which means Wilson's probably working his way through the tunnels to Blackwood's vault. Emma makes a quick decision, her mother's training combining with her own experience as sheriff. Mary, you and Sullivan circle around to the hidden entrance. Old Ben, cover the main shaft. I'm going up after the Carsons. She checks her mother's guns, feeling their familiar weight. We're not just protecting Blackwood's blood money. We're showing everyone that Silver Creek's days of living under fear are over. The autumn wind picks up, carrying the scent of sage and gunpowder. Above them, dark clouds gather over the mountains, promising an early winter storm. Emma touches her mother's badge for luck, then signals the others to move into position. The real test of Silver Creek's new order is about to begin. The mine's shadowy entrance yawns before Emma like a dragon's maw as she works her way up the rocky slope toward the Carson brothers' position. Her mother's journal had mentioned a narrow trail, barely visible unless you knew where to look, that led to a ledge overlooking the ventilation shaft. The autumn wind whips at her coat, carrying the first bitter taste of winter. Below, she can see Old Ben taking up position near the main entrance, his Winchester reflecting occasional glints of the fading sunlight. Mary and Sullivan have already disappeared around the hill, making their way to the hidden entrance behind the processing shed. The storm clouds overhead grow darker, promising rain. Emma reaches the ledge just as the first drops begin to fall. From her vantage point, she can see Josh Carson's red bandana as he peers down the ventilation shaft, his brother Luke keeping watch with a Spencer carbine. They're so focused on the mine below that they don't notice her approach until it's too late. "Drop those guns, boys," Emma calls out, her mother's Colts trained on the brothers. "Way I hear it, you've already killed enough people this week." The Carsons freeze, then slowly turn. Luke's eyes widen at the sight of her. "Well, if it ain't the lady sheriff," he sneers, though his voice carries a tremor of uncertainty. "Wilson said you'd be trouble." Speaking of Wilson, Emma keeps her gun steady despite the increasing rain. Where might he be? A gunshot answers her question from inside the mine. The sound echoes through the tunnels, followed by Sullivan's shout of warning. The Carsons use the distraction to dive for cover, and the ridge erupts in gunfire. Emma rolls behind a boulder as bullets chip away at the rock. She can hear Mary and Sullivan engaging Wilson below, their shots echoing through the mine's complex tunnel system. Old Ben's Winchester booms from the main entrance, keeping anyone from escaping that way. "Your mama was just like you," Josh Carson calls out, trying to rattle her. "Too proud to know when she was beaten. Wilson told us all about her, how she played both sides, gathering evidence while pretending to be Blackwood's friend." "My mother knew the difference between right and wrong," Emma replies, using their conversation to track their positions. "Something you boys seem to have trouble with." A movement catches her eye. Luke trying to work his way around her flank. Emma's first shot sends him scrambling back to cover, while her second catches his hat, spinning it off his head. The brothers' return fire is wild, desperate. Below, the gunfight intensifies. Through gaps in the rocks, Emma sees Sullivan pursuing Wilson deeper into the mine. while Mary holds the hidden entrance against what sounds like more of Wilson's men. The rain falls harder now, making the rocks treacherous. "You know what Wilson's really after?" Josh shouts over the storm. "Ain't just Blackwood's money. He's got papers. Papers that'd bring down half the territory's big ranchers. Worth more than gold to the right people." Emma's mind races. Her mother's journal had mentioned something about a second safe, one even Blackwood didn't know about. Why did you break him out? Or did Wilson just convince you there was enough money to go around? A bitter laugh from Luke. "Wilson said this'd be easy. Town's got a woman sheriff," he said. "Be like taking candy from a baby." Another burst of gunfire punctuates his words. "Didn't mention anything about the whole town being ready for us." "Silver Creek's changed," Emma calls back, working her way to a better position. "We look after our own now." As if to prove her point, Old Ben's rifle roars again, followed by cries of pain from the main entrance. Through the rain, Emma sees two riders fleeing. More of Wilson's men, their ambush spoiled. A clap of thunder masks Emma's movement as she scales a higher rock. From here, she can see both Carson brothers huddled behind an old ore cart. Their attention is divided between her last position and the commotion below. "Last chance, boys," she warns. "Way I see it, you've got two choices. Surrender to me or wait for Marshal Sullivan to finish with Wilson and come looking for you." Man's got a particular dislike for folks who shoot unarmed bank tellers. The brothers exchange glances, their resolve wavering. Before they can decide, more gunfire erupts from the mine. Closer now, more desperate. Wilson bursts from the ventilation shaft, papers clutched in one hand, gun in the other. He sees the Carson brothers first, then Emma above them. "Shoot her!" he screams, raising his own weapon. "Shoot her now!" Time seems to slow. Emma sees Luke Carson turning toward her, raising his carbine. She sees Josh hesitating, perhaps remembering the bank teller in Mesa Ridge. She sees Wilson, his face a mask of hatred and fear, taking aim. Emma's mother's guns seem to move on their own, muscle memory born of countless hours of practice taking over. Two shots ring out almost as one. Luke Carson's carbine flies from his hands and Wilson's gun arm jerks back, his stolen papers scattering in the rain. "That's my mother's work you're carrying," Emma says coldly, her guns unwavering. "Don't think she'd appreciate you using it to hurt more people." Josh Carson raises his hand slowly, nudging his brother to do the same. Below, Sullivan and Mary emerge from the mine, their own prisoners in tow. The sound of approaching horses announces the arrival of Marshal Hawkins and his deputies right on time. Wilson clutches his bleeding arm, his face twisted with rage. "You're just like her," he spits. "Catherine Henderson, the high and mighty crusader. She died for those papers." "And for what?" "The territory's still corrupt, still run by men stronger than you." "No," Emma replies, watching as Sullivan claps irons on Wilson's wrists. "She died showing people they could stand up to men like you. And from where I'm standing, it seems like she succeeded." The storm begins to ease as the prisoners are led away. Emma retrieves her mother's scattered papers, careful to keep them dry. Among them, she finds a letter addressed to her, written in Catherine Henderson's flowing hand. Through the clearing clouds, a shaft of sunlight breaks through, falling like a blessing on Silver Creek below. Back in Silver Creek, the setting sun paints the sky in shades of purple and gold as the town celebrates another victory. The prisoners are secured in the jail, with Marshal Hawkins personally overseeing their transfer arrangements. The saloon buzzes with excitement as people share their versions of events, each telling growing taller than the last. But Emma isn't part of the celebrations. She sits alone in her office, her mother's letter unopened on the desk before her. The lamp casts warm light across the weathered envelope, addressed simply, "For Emma, when the time comes." Her mother's gun belt hangs on a nearby peg, the pearl handles gleaming softly in the lamplight. A gentle knock at the door precedes Thomas Henderson's entrance. He carries 2 cups of coffee, setting one before his daughter. "Your mother wrote that the night before she left for her last ride," he says quietly. Made me promise not to give it to you until you were ready. After today, I'd say you're ready. Emma's hands tremble slightly as she opens the envelope, unfolding the pages within. Her mother's familiar handwriting fills several sheets, the ink slightly faded but still clear. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, then you've already discovered the truth about my work, about Blackwood, and about the choice I made to stand against corruption even when it meant leaving you too soon. A mother's hardest task is preparing her child for a world she might not live to see. But I've watched you grow with such pride. The guns you now carry were never meant to be instruments of violence, but tools of justice. Each time I used them, it was with the hope that you would inherit a better world. The badge you wear was earned not just by your skill with a weapon, but by your heart's understanding of right and wrong. There's more to tell you about Blackwood's schemes, about the men who helped him, and about those who secretly fought against him. You'll find it all in a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards of Old Ben's cabin, ledgers, letters, and evidence that may still be needed. Use it wisely, and remember that justice without mercy is just another form of tyranny. But most importantly, remember this. True strength isn't in the gun you carry or the badge you wear. It's in the choices you make, the people you protect, and the legacy you build. Silver Creek was my home, and I died protecting it. Now it's your home to protect, your legacy to build. I've watched you practice with Old Ben, seen your natural talent, but more importantly, I've seen your compassion. You have your father's kindness and my determination, a combination that will serve you well in the years to come. There's one last secret I need to share. Emma pauses in her reading as Mary enters the office, followed by Rose McCready and Old Ben. Their faces show concern, but also understanding. Go on, Old Ben encourages softly. Your mother would want them to hear this too. Emma continues reading. There's a group of us scattered across the territory who've dedicated ourselves to fighting corruption and protecting the innocent. We call ourselves the Guardians of the Trail. Your father knows some of them, and Old Ben can introduce you to others. They'll need your help in the times ahead, just as you may need theirs. The silver cross Reverend Hayes wears, the ring on Marshal Hawkins' hand, the medallion Rose McCready keeps behind her bar. These are markers, ways for members to identify each other. We work in secret, but we're never alone. I'm leaving you more than just guns and badges, Emma. I'm leaving you a network of allies, a cause worth fighting for, and the knowledge that one person's courage can inspire others to stand against injustice. Take care of your father. Help him understand that my choices, though they took me from you both too soon, were made out of love. Love for my family, my town, and the belief that good people, standing together, can overcome any evil. With all my love and faith in you, your mother, Catherine Quickdraw Henderson. The room falls silent as Emma finishes reading. Through the window they can hear the sounds of celebration from the saloon, the voice of a town free from fear. The Guardians of the Trail, Mary says thoughtfully. Father mentioned them once, but I never knew. She touches a silver bracelet on her wrist, one Emma had seen many times but never thought significant. Your mother helped establish the network, Old Ben explains. After seeing how Blackwood operated, she knew one person alone couldn't fight that kind of corruption. Needed good folks working together, watching each other's backs. Rose nods, retrieving the medallion from behind her bar. We've been keeping the network alive, waiting for the right time. There are others like Blackwood out there thinking they can buy power with fear and money. And now? Emma asks, carefully folding her mother's letter. Now, Thomas says, you know everything. The choice is yours, Emma. Your mother made her decision, but you need to make your own. Emma stands walking to the window. Silver Creek spreads out before her, its streets peaceful under the rising moon. She thinks of Wilson in his cell, of the Carson brothers' surrender, of the townspeople who stood together against tyranny. The territory's changing, she says finally. But there's still work to be done. People who need protection, justice that needs serving. She turns to face the others, her mother's badge gleaming on her vest. I reckon the guardians of the trail could use a sheriff who knows her way around a gun. Old Ben's weathered face breaks into a rare smile. Your mother's proud, girl. Right proud indeed. Outside, the autumn wind carries the promise of winter, but also of renewal. Emma touches her mother's letter, feeling the weight of inheritance, not just of guns and badges, but of purpose and principle. Silver Creek has found its protector, and the legacy of Catherine Henderson lives on in ways Victor Blackwood never could have imagined. Winter arrives early in Silver Creek, dusting the town with the first snow of the season. 3 weeks have passed since the confrontation at the mine, and changes continue to ripple through the territory. Frank Wilson and the Carson brothers have been transported to a federal prison, their testimony further exposing the corruption that had plagued the region for so long. The morning air carries the sharp bite of approaching winter, mixing with the smell of wood smoke from newly kindled fires. Emma stands on the boardwalk outside her office, watching as workers mount a new sign on the building across the street. Henderson School of Marksmanship and Law Enforcement. The shooting academy her mother dreamed of has become reality, with old Ben Wallace serving as head instructor. Already lawmen from 3 territories have signed up for training. The sound of hammering echoes off the fresh fallen snow, a rhythm of progress and change. Got the last of the papers sorted, Mary says, joining Emma with a stack of documents, her breath visible in the cold air. Father's deputies have arrested 2 more corrupt judges and a banker in Mesa Ridge. Seems your mother's evidence is creating quite the stir in the territorial capital. One of the judges actually tried to burn his office down before they caught him. Didn't do him much good, though. Inside the office, a map on the wall shows pins marking known members of the Guardians of the Trail. Emma has spent hours studying it, learning the network her mother helped build. Red pins for active members, blue for allies, black for those who'd given their lives in service to justice. Each pin tells a story, representing a life dedicated to making the territory a safer place. Marshal Sullivan sent word from Fort Benson, Mary continues, settling behind her desk. The morning light catches the silver bracelet at her wrist, her own symbol of membership in the Guardians. As both deputy and treasurer of the shooting academy, she's become indispensable to Silver Creek's new order. Says he's identified 3 more towns under the thumb of men like Blackwood. The Guardians are already moving to help the local folks organize. Got one group up in Cedar Ridge that's particularly promising. The door opens, admitting Rose McCready with her usual grace, bringing with her the warmth of fresh coffee and baked goods from her kitchen. She carries a telegram and a knowing smile, her medallion now worn openly on a chain around her neck. Message from that Pinkerton agent in Denver, she says, handing the paper to Emma. Says he's mighty interested in establishing a formal relationship with the Guardians. Seems our reputation is growing. Offered to put his entire agency at our disposal. For a price, of course. Emma reads the telegram thoughtfully, warming her hands on the coffee Rose brought. The Pinkerton Detective Agency's interest could mean powerful allies in the fight against corruption. But her mother's letter had warned about the importance of maintaining independence, of serving justice rather than powerful interests. Tell him we're happy to cooperate on specific cases, she decides, folding the telegram carefully. But the Guardians remain independent. We serve the people, not any agency or government. Mother was clear about that in her journals. The moment we start serving money instead of justice is the moment we become what we're fighting against. The sound of hoofbeats draws their attention outside, where Thomas Henderson rides up with Reverend Hayes. They've been surveying land for the Academy's expansion, planning for a future that seemed impossible just months ago. Fresh snow falls from the Reverend's hat as he dismounts, his silver cross glinting in the winter light. Emma, Thomas calls out, dismounting with increasing ease despite the winter chill. The cold air brings color to his cheeks, making him look younger than he has in years. Got visitors coming. Riders from Twin Pines asking for help. Seems they've got trouble with land grabbers, same as we had. Already sent word to Marshal Hawkins, the Reverend adds, stamping snow from his boots. He's dispatching deputies, but they're asking specifically for you. Your handling of the Blackwood situation has made quite an impression. word spreading faster than winter snow. Emma touches her mother's badge, feeling its familiar weight. How many riders? "Half dozen," Thomas replies, his breath steaming in the cold air. "Led by their sheriff's daughter, if you can believe it. Says her father was killed standing up to the land grabbers and the town's losing hope. Reminds me of someone else I know." A smile touches Emma's lips. "Tell them I'll meet with them at Rose's place. Mary, would you fetch old Ben? Think it's time to show these folks what the Guardians of the Trail can do. And have Dr. Wright ready some rooms at the boarding house. They'll have had a cold ride." The day passes in a flurry of activity. The Twin Pines delegation arrives by afternoon, tired, cold, but carrying the same determination Emma remembers feeling when she first stood up to Blackwood. Their leader, Sarah Cooper, reminds Emma of herself just months ago, young, angry, and ready to fight for justice. In Rose's back room, now the unofficial headquarters of the Guardian's local chapter, Emma listens to their story. The details are different, but the pattern is familiar. Wealthy men using force and fear to steal what they couldn't buy, corrupting the law to serve their purposes. The warm lamplight reflects off Sarah's silver sheriff's star, her father's badge, worn now as both memorial and promise. "My father believed in the law," Sarah says, her voice thick with emotion. The circles under her eyes speak of sleepless nights and constant vigilance. Believed in it right up until they shot him down in front of the courthouse. Said a badge meant something, meant standing between good folks and those who'd harm them. "The law's only as good as the people enforcing it," Emma replies, sharing a look with Mary. "That's why we're building something new here. Something that stands between ordinary folks and those who'd prey on them. Your father was right about what a badge means, and wrong about having to stand alone." She opens her mother's journal, now supplemented with her own notes and observations. "First thing we'll need is a complete map of your town and surrounding territory. The Guardians operate best when we know the ground. Then we'll want to identify potential allies, shopkeepers, ranchers, anyone who's tired of living under fear." "Already good at that part," Sarah says, a spark of hope returning to her eyes. "Got a network of folks ready to stand up, just lacking the know-how and confidence. Got a school teacher who's been keeping records of everything the land grabbers do, and a telegraph operator who intercepts their messages. That's where we come in." Old Ben interjects from his corner, his rifle propped against his chair like an old friend. "Week at the academy will teach your people more than just shooting. They'll learn strategy, organization, and how to turn a community from victims to defenders. Your father had the right idea. He just needed what we've built here." As the meeting continues, Emma feels a familiar presence, almost as if her mother is watching, approving. Catherine Henderson's dream of justice has grown beyond Silver Creek, spreading like wildfire across the territory. Every person they help, every town they free, adds another thread to the web of protection she envisioned. Outside, the snow falls harder, blanketing Silver Creek in white. But inside Rose's back room, the warm lamplight illuminates faces filled with purpose. Emma sees it in Mary's confident stance, in old Ben's watchful gaze, in Sarah Cooper's growing hope, the legacy of one woman's courage, multiplied through the hearts and hands of those who carry it forward. "Well then," Emma says, strapping on her mother's guns, the pearl handles warm to her touch. "Let's get to work. Twin Pines needs to learn what Silver Creek already knows. Justice rides with those brave enough to stand together." Spring returns to Silver Creek, painting the hills in wildflowers and promise. A year has passed since Emma Henderson first put on her mother's gun belt, and the town has flourished in ways few could have imagined. The Henderson School of Marksmanship and Law Enforcement has graduated its third class, sending trained peacekeepers throughout the territory. Emma stands beneath the old oak tree on the Henderson farm, where her mother first taught her to shoot. A fresh headstone gleams in the morning light. Catherine Quickdraw Henderson, finally honored publicly for her sacrifices. Beside it, a memorial wall bears the names of other guardians who gave their lives for justice. "Thought I'd find you here," Thomas says, approaching with a leather-bound book. Mary found this in the last batch of Blackwood's papers. It's your mother's first journal from her days in Tombstone. He hands it to Emma, his eyes gentle. Seems fitting you should have it today. Today marks more than just the changing of seasons. Representatives from towns across the territory are gathering in Silver Creek for the first official meeting of the Guardians of the Trail. Sarah Cooper from Twin Pines arrived yesterday, wearing both her father's badge and the silver medallion of the Guardians. Under Emma's guidance, her town had driven out the land grabbers and established their own chapter of peacekeepers. You know what your mother wrote in that first journal? Thomas asks, settling on a nearby bench. She said one person standing up to evil was brave but foolish. 2 people standing together was a start. But a whole community rising up together? That's unstoppable. Emma opens the journal, recognizing her mother's younger hand. The pages tell stories of early fights against corruption, of lessons learned and allies made. But more importantly, they tell of hope. Hope that one day the scattered defenders of justice would unite. The sound of approaching horses draws their attention. Mary rides up, leading a small group including Rose McCready, Old Ben, and Robert Sullivan. They've been inspecting the expanded academy grounds where new dormitories will house students from across the frontier. Meeting's about to start, Mary announces, her deputy's badge catching the sun. She's grown into her role, respected now, not just as the marshal's daughter but as a capable leader in her own right. Got representatives from 12 towns and more expected before sundown. At the newly constructed town hall, Emma finds the main room already filled with faces both familiar and new. Sarah Cooper stands with her group from Twin Pines, sharing stories with peacekeepers from Cedar Ridge. Reverend Hayes discusses strategy with a banker from Mesa Ridge, who'd helped expose corruption in his town. Rose McCready supervises the arrangements, her saloon having become too small for such gatherings. Her medallion gleams proudly now, no longer hidden behind the bar. Got word from Marshal Hawkins, she tells Emma. Federal government officially recognizes the Guardians as auxiliary peacekeepers. Means we can operate openly, help more people. Old Ben takes his place at the front of the room, his weathered face bearing a rare smile. The Academy's success has given him new purpose, passing on not just shooting skills, but the wisdom gained through years of fighting injustice. Emma steps up to address the gathered crowd, feeling the weight of her mother's guns at her hips, the badge on her vest, and generations of hope in her heart. The room falls silent, all eyes turning to the young sheriff who helped spark this transformation. A year ago, she begins, Silver Creek was a town living in fear. We all know that story. It's the same story that brought each of you here today. But my mother believed in something more. She believed that good people, given the chance and the means, would stand together against injustice. She unfolds her mother's first journal, marked at a particular page. She wrote these words 30 years ago. The frontier breeds 2 kinds of people, those who exploit others' weakness, and those who protect others' strength. Our job isn't just to stop the exploiters, it's to help people find their strength. The room fills with murmurs of agreement. Emma continues. Today we make official what began with scattered acts of courage. The Guardians of the Trail isn't just about badges or guns. It's about communities standing together, about turning victims into defenders, about making sure no one has to stand alone against evil. From her pocket, she draws a silver medallion, newly minted, bearing the official seal of the Guardians. Similar medallions lie ready for each representative, marking their town's commitment to mutual protection and justice. My mother died protecting her town, but her dream lives on in each of us. In every town that stands up to corruption, in every person who chooses to defend rather than exploit, in every badge worn with honor instead of price. The morning sun streams through the windows as Emma leads the assembled Guardians in their first official oath. The words, written by Katherine Henderson years ago, echo through the hall. We stand as guardians of justice, defenders of the weak, protectors of hope. Where evil rides, we rise. Where fear rules, we rally. Together we stand. for together we are strong. Outside, Silver Creek bustles with life and purpose. The shadows of fear that once darkened its streets have given way to the light of community and courage. From the town hall steps, Emma can see the Henderson farm in the distance, the old oak tree standing tall against the spring sky. "Well done, Emma," old Ben says softly, standing beside her. "Your mother's legacy is in good hands." Emma touches her badge, feeling the connection to all those who wore it before and all who will wear it after. "No, Ben," she replies with a smile. "It's in all our hands now, just as she always wanted it to be." The spring breeze carries the scent of new beginnings as people file out of the town hall, their silver medallions catching the sunlight. Mary joins them, carrying a telegram that just arrived. "Word from the Twin Pines chapter," she reports. "They've started their own shooting academy based on our model. Sarah's youngest sister is their first female student." "Your mother would have loved that," Thomas says, joining them on the steps. He hands Emma another journal from the collection they'd found. There's a passage in here where she writes about hoping that one day folks wouldn't be surprised to see a woman wearing a badge. Reckon she'd be mighty pleased to see how far we've come. Emma watches as the representatives mount up, heading back to their own towns with new purpose and connection. Each carries not just a medallion, but a piece of Catherine Henderson's dream. A dream that had survived betrayal, bullets, and burial to bloom again in the spring sunshine of Silver Creek. "Way I see it," old Ben says, his rifle resting comfortably in the crook of his arm. "Your mother planted seeds of justice all across this territory. Now we're just helping them grow." He nods toward the academy where the next class of students is already gathering. "And from where I stand, looks like we're in for quite a harvest." Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.